The Asia Cup, the tournament where everyone assumes they will see an India-Pakistan final. And yet, in its entire history, we have never seen an India-Pakistan final. So as we look ahead to a fresh edition, this time a T20 edition, we're wondering, you look at Pakistan, they've had their troubles in T20s. Bangladesh, seesawing. Sri Lanka, forever seesawing. Is this a chance for Afghanistan to make their first final? That's the question we're asking on ESPN Cricinfo Run Order, joined by an entire crew from around the globe. So, free word, who wants to go first? Is this Afghanistan's moment?
Moment to do what?
To
Win?
Let's start with to make an Asia Cup final.
Yeah, okay, I'll do a quick one because I'm like the least specialist of all these guys. Yeah, I think the chance is there, but I think, one of the things, I don't know how much it counts against them, but like they've only played one T20 all year. I guess it factors in a little bit, although if you go through like their, best 11s and stuff, all of the players have been playing quite a few. They've all played a lot of T20 cricket this year, as they do generally anyway. With the kind of players they've got and their expertise in the format, it's probably the best shot they've got of getting further than like a semi-final spot in that tournament.
The public memory of Afghanistan, of course, is that they've been shining at world events, semi-finalists at last year's T20 World Cup, beat England at the Champions Trophy this year in the ODIs, but they have only played 3 T20Is since the end of that T20 World Cup and the start of this tri-series as a precursor to the Asia Cup. Nagraj, where do you stand on where Afghanistan are?
Well, they're playing especially at a venue which is a home away from home for them. They virtually, I was checking the numbers, 55 T20s they've played. Their record is pretty good. They've, of course, played against different kinds of teams. 38 out of 55, 38 wins out of 55 is not a bad number. They're led by the guy who has been the captain for a while. So Rashid, who commands a lot of respect. Mohammad Nabi continues to be around. He retires or doesn't retire, we never understand, but he's still there, one of the key all-rounders. The biggest headache for Afghanistan, from what I have over the years I've seen, is the selection. Then they pick their best 11? I can never understand. There are kind of, when you speak to people around who follow Afghanistan inside out, they say that maybe the best 11 is never picked up. If they can pick their best 11, yes, Afghanistan have a chance to make the final for sure.
Yeah, they won't be. Go on, Dara.
Yeah. I just wanted to jump. Far be it from me to agree with Salman Agha, but one of the things I did agree with was I didn't buy into this idea that they are the best T20 side at this tri-series. I didn't think they were favorites for this tri-series, partially because Pakistan now seem to have got their act together and have played a lot of T20 cricket this summer in a way that obviously we can't really read much into what Afghanistan do. We don't know what their best, as Nagraj said, we don't know what their best side is, even when they have played a lot of T20 cricket. They hadn't played much. The other issue, I still think it's a very lopsided side in the sense that their chances vary dramatically in terms of whether they backed first or chase.
I guess this question's...
We have asked this question before, in T20s about whether a team that, barely plays together, but, is very involved in the leagues, whether they can be good. And I mean, we've had an answer in West Indies in 2012 and 2016 about teams that can come together and like the data from the last couple of World Cups is that Afghanistan are quite good at doing that. So I think you should listen to the bigger picture indications. I think, it got to a stage in both that ODI World Cup in 2023 and last year's T20 World Cup where the surprise was when Afghanistan wasn't winning, when they weren't upsetting teams. So they've got, it's not, I rate them as a tournament team because even though they don't come in with a lot of form, with a lot of kind of the conventional indicators of how well a team is doing, they've also put together some like very varied performances. If you go through their wins in last year's World Cup, there were different people standing up at different times. They were countering different problems and coming up with solutions that other teams might not come up with. And I think, that to me is a sign of a really good tournament team. I certainly think that they are a front runner.
So I judge all people by the same measures, which is one, are you a good person? And secondly, what have you done in the IPL? And this is for everybody, whether or not you work in cricket is irrelevant. And so I was looking at the last IPL, there were 8 players from Afghanistan who featured and 8 from Sri Lanka. But one of those Sri Lankan players has not been picked in the squad, Ehsan Malinga. So on this very scientific basis, I'm saying that Afghanistan are favorites.
Are they good people?
that I'm not sure of. That remains to be seen. Obviously, with Pakistan, the only thing is the last time they played good teams, they lost, right? In New Zealand and in South Africa. So that's the only thing that gives me some pause about them. And in all seriousness, Afghanistan do have a really good, strong side if they put it out, if they put all their best 11 players out on paper.
Afghanistan squad actually has the greatest amount of continuity among all these teams. You look at Pakistan, of course, they've made their changes. There's no Babar Rizwan. Of course, they're moving on from everything happened last year. Sri Lanka's squad does have new faces. Bangladesh's squad has some surprising omissions. Afghanistan seem to have continuity. Is that coupled with the overall inconsistency that ties a lot of the other teams together? Is that what places Afghanistan slightly ahead, if at all?
No, I mean, for all that they haven't played together as a side since they made the semis of the last T20 World Cup, they like I said earlier, there's a lot of players there who have played a lot of T20 cricket. A lot of them have played together generally. These are not new, untried players that are playing. All of them are immensely experienced. There's a little bit of a feel of like that. In fact, Fidel kind of mentioned it earlier. There's a little bit of the feel of the West Indian sides of the early 2000s and the mid 2000s who used to, who were just good enough to come together and do what they need to do.
So, Daniel, what do Pakistan have potentially, which could see them finish ahead of Afghanistan and be in a final?
I think partially it's just that Pakistan, they have an easier group for one, in a sense. They play India, but then other than that, they have the other group is potentially a group of death where you've got Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Afghanistan. One good side is going to get eliminated. With Pakistan, the thing they have going for them, it looks to me like they're pacing T20 innings in the way that they need to be pacing in 2025. It took them 3 or 4 years to do that. But then now you see when...
Took them about a decade, really.
Yeah. I'm sure. I'm still sure we haven't moved on from the Babar Rizwan debate, but we have for now, so I'm not going to talk about it. So when they lose wickets early on, they still continue to keep going. Against Afghanistan, there were 3 or 4 situations where I thought potentially a Pakistan side a couple of years ago sort of shot up shop and maybe tried to post to 160 and then try and defend that. But then the advantage of a batting order that goes through to number 9 is they keep going on and on with Fahim Ashraf, with Hassan Ali. I still remain to be convinced about this idea that you can only play 3 specialist bowlers and not get taken apart by a proper top side. Even that series, they won 3-0 against Bangladesh at home. Fahim Ashraf went for plenty. Whenever there was especially a seam bowling part-timer on, they went for runs and they looked vulnerable. And they played 3 against Bangladesh, 6 against Bangladesh, 3 against the West Indies. I fear that when they play genuinely top opposition in high-pressure situations, maybe defending a target, they may have to rethink that strategy. The only reason I was slightly less optimistic about Afghanistan reaching the final is also whenever an Asia Cup happens, I automatically put Sri Lanka in the final because they always get there. There have only been 2 Asia Cup finals in its 40-year history when Sri Lanka haven't made it. So I always give one spot to them. And then,
when Yash said let one other team get into the final ahead of Afghanistan, I obviously thought that Sri Lanka was fixtured there. And that was the team that Yash just thought to put in the final without any thinking.
100%. Sri Lanka versus Afghanistan.
Always.
Yeah, I take that.
All right, Fida, now present the more legitimate case for Sri Lanka outside of the omens and the history and the track record.
Yeah, so sorry to cut you off, Daniel. I think that Sri Lanka cricket, like now, there is a little bit of excitement among fans that there's like a genuine upward curve from what has been essentially a 10-year trough, since, Dilshan, Mahela, Kumar all retired and Herath later. There's been, there's obviously been a quite a big dip, but there's a little bit of kind of vibes around this young team that is led well. Chaya Tasalanka has been, performing as recently as against Zimbabwe. And Sanat Jayasuriya seems to be working quite well with his captains. So there is, there's a little bit of, and also the domestic problems that we've seen in Sri Lanka have gone away. But there's yeah, I think in the last 7 or 8 months they built up a little bit of form, but that's all been at home. It's most of their victories have come at home against opposition that they generally have been decent against. So there's a little bit of an unknown as well, but there seems to be good variety in the attack, and finally they've got a top order that seems to be working. So I think it's kind of it's the first big test for this particular team that's been led by Sri Lanka.
I do want to make a case for the team that made more Asia Cup finals in the 2010s than any other, which is Bangladesh. And whoever wants to take this up, I am amazingly intrigued by Bangladesh's results in the last few months, because they won series against Sri Lanka and Pakistan, and they have lost one to UAE.
Yeah, I'm not best placed to talk about because I did watch most of that Pakistan-Bangladesh series, both of them. The only things I will say are, for the first time, it looks like they do have a really good opening pair, who against Pakistan specifically in the power play, they looked like they wanted to take them on. They made, like we often accuse Bangladesh of being most famously at that 2024 World Cup, where they almost wanted to win rather than qualify for the semis. But it feels like for some reason that Sam will better be able to explain. Yeah, they've got an opening pair that works now against Pakistan. They took them on. I thought they took them on reasonably well. That in some of the press conferences that I sat in, they seem to have sort of written off that UAE series. I'm not quite sure what was happening there. There's a third T20 tacked on that they weren't quite prepared to play, and then in the end, the UAE ended up having a really good series. I saw Asif Khan had a good series there, and the way he smashed Pakistan around in that second game, I wasn't too surprised. But beyond that, I think they remain the kind of team that, at least Pakistan's coach Mike Hesson said, that if they remain the kind of team that will do well at home, and do some criticism of the surfaces that they prepared to beat Pakistan in that home series. So I think the difference in results when they play at home versus when they play away, they still have to prove a lot of people wrong if they really want to make that sort of run now.
I do think that they have probably one of the most one of the most varied attacks that they've ever had. The best group of fast bowlers that they've ever had. So they've got a lot going for them. And in that series against Sri Lanka, that variety in the attack really did make things difficult. They won 2-1, I think, that series. And Sri Lanka's top order, was doing reasonably well, and Bangladesh had the goods against them. So definitely not, but
I think
a team that is a contender.
Yeah, I think the single most shocking thing in that Bangladesh squad, there are 5 spin bowling options, only one of whom is a slow left armer. So things have changed for Bangladesh. So let's go around the room now. We've dissected these cases. I want everyone to pick or predict their Asia Cup 2025 final. Osman.
I will go with Afghanistan and Sri Lanka. Why not? Sri Lanka, just because they're always there. And I'll go with Afghanistan. This is the ridiculous outrage.
So you're predicting Bangladesh to get eliminated in the group.
Yes. I mean, there's 3, like Sri Lanka, Afghanistan, and Bangladesh in one.
Yeah.
So I predict Bangladesh.
Amazing how the India-Pakistan group didn't become the group of death.
Well,
It's like that extra day. It's like that extra reserve day for the India-Pakistan match in the last Asia Cup. These things just keep happening.
We don't talk about that anymore.
Fidel, pick your final.
I think I am going to predict a repeat of last Asia Cup final. It's very safe, just because Sri Lanka tend to find themselves in these tournaments, and India just I think that they'll muscle through the group stage. I think that would probably be my prediction.
Hopefully a few more runs on the board this time from whichever team bats first.
Siraj is not playing, so Sri Lanka will be happy.
4-4, yeah.
Yeah, I have to agree with Fidel there. I would have gone for Sri Lanka to make the final, partially because there is an uptick of optimism from Sri Lanka, as Fidel said, and partially because of their history. Pakistan don't make too many Asia Cup finals. I'm just going to stick with the establishment order. Yes, Sri Lanka to make the final and India to join.
Nagraj?
Would love Afghanistan, Pakistan.
This is not football, Nagraj.
Yeah.
Australia do play with the Asian teams there.
Australia Cup. You can fully
Australasia, yeah, we were talking about. Yeah, but that's a different thing. Yeah, Afghanistan, Pakistan would be fun, but doubt that's going to happen. So yeah, India, Sri Lanka. looks more likely.
Dustin.
I'll just say by law of averages, India, Pakistan. I mean, surely at some
someone had
stage
to
you're
say
going to get that final, right? At some
Yes.
point you're going to get that final. Why not this year?
Yeah, I was waiting for someone to say it. It has to happen at some point. Let
Because
this be
it's
the year.
being saved for the 2026 T20 World Cup final.
Oh, where will that be played? Colombo.
In Sri Lanka. In Sri Lanka.
Oh, that'll be played in Sri Lanka.
That'll be the true Asia Cup then. All right, gentlemen, thank you so much.
It'll be raining that day.
There'll be enough reserve days.
There'll be many reserve days. Don't worry.
This was Run Order.